Hi, I'm Rob Kendall and welcome to this tutorial about setting up a basic web server on the Google Cloud Compute platform. Now, I've just got a basic Chrome window, nothing too fancy, and we're going to go ahead to the web address cloud.google.com. Now, when that loads, that will take us to the Google Cloud Platform homepage where you can learn all about the Google Cloud Platform and what it can do for you. You can see I'm already logged into my Google account. There's a picture of me. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my console. And this will take us to the developers console where we'll click Create Project. Now, in the new project, we're going to call this web-server. And then for the project ID, you can see it automatically fills it in. We can cycle through a few different ones. I like to pick a reasonably funny one. And if we click on the advanced options, that's useful for us because I'm actually in the UK. So we're going to go ahead and choose the EU data center because that's the nearest to our location. If you're in the States, probably leave it as the default US one. So we'll click create. So you can see down here where I've highlighted it's creating our project web server, and that's spinning away and working quite nicely. It doesn't take too long to create a project, and the first thing you'll see is you're located at this project dashboard with a bunch of different options depending on what sort of cloud platform you want to develop and what you want to make. There is the launch click to deploy software over on the top right, which you can launch a LAMP stack or a WordPress install straight from there, but we like to have a little bit more control. So what we're actually going to do is go through the setup in a more manual step-by-step fashion rather than the click to deploy option. But that is something to consider. So over on the left-hand menu, you'll see there is source code, compute, networking. We're going to go ahead and click on compute and then compute engine, and then on the disks section. So rather than going at the VM instances, which is actually what we want to create, an instance of a virtual machine, we're going to create a disk first. And you can see why it takes a little while to initialize the compute engine the first time you run it. The reason we're going to start with a disk and not a virtual instance is that we want to be able to create an image of a specific size. If you create a virtual machine instance, you'll find that by default it kind of sets the boot disk to 10 gigabytes. Now, what if you want something bigger? You've got to either mess about with Linux and command lines and mounting and unmounting and resizing partitions and all that sort of fun stuff that will eventually drain the life out of you. Or you can go ahead and do what we're doing and create the disk image first at a specific size and then create a virtual machine instance and attach the disk that we're creating here. So you can see it's got a little tick in the lower right hand corner. So here we are. We'll click on new disk. And again, this will give us some options. Doesn't matter what it's called. We'll leave the description out. In the zone, we're going to again choose a zone that's nearest to us. I'm going to choose Europe West 1-C. And it's very important to remember where this zone is, because when we create a virtual instance, we're going to want that to be in the same zone as where we've created this disk. So that's in Europe West 1-C. Remember that, people. Standard persistent disk, that's fine. The source type image, and we're going to choose an image that we're going to boot from. Now, all of these are pretty much various versions of Linux at various different versions. We're going to choose the Backports Debian Wheezy. It's the first one. You can see there's a bunch of different ones down here, and right down the bottom there's some Windows ones. There's CoreOS and OpenSUSE, depending on how you want to pronounce it, Ubuntu, the ubiquitous Ubuntu, and some Windows ones, which cost a little bit more, but that gives you option to remote desktop onto them. Now, here's where the interesting bit is, the size. We're going to make that 70 gigabytes instead of the default 10, so it gives them more room to grow. And we'll create this disk, and again, the activities, it's spinning away, creating our disk for us, and when we get a little tick, the main screen will be updated, and it'll say disk 1 has been created. So we'll just wait a little while that happens. So we can see our disk's being created for us, which is great. 70 gigabytes, zone Europe West 1-C. Now we can create a virtual instance. So we'll click on VM instances in the compute engine menu, and we'll click create instance because it's our first one that we're creating. Again, do a little bit of thinking and it goes off. And we'll give this a name. Keep everything nice and simple. Forget about the advanced options. And we'll call this test-web-server. Feel free to name it whatever you wish. And in the firewall, presumably with a web server, you're going to want to allow people to watch it. look at it. So you can click allow HTTP traffic and allow HTTPS traffic to automatically add those to our network firewall that is created under the networks tab under there, under the networks menu that I've highlighted. So allow those in, it automatically sets up the port 80 rules. Now remember, this is a zone, we had West 1C, so we're going to set that to be the same. Pick a machine type. There's a bunch of different ones. These are unavailable, the more high-powered ones during the free trial, which is what we're on at the minute. So we're going to go ahead and leave that at the standard one virtual CPU and 3.75 gigs of memory, plenty. In the boot disk, we're going to choose existing disk and the disk one that we created moments ago. Now we're going to check the delete boot disk instance is deleted, so that when we eventually delete this, it will take that boot disk with it and just saves us a little bit of extra cleanup. IP we're going to leave as ephemeral and click create. Now this will take a little bit longer than the boot disk, and you can see again down there it's loading us up a VM instance, test web server, and spinning up the new disk and installing everything and getting it all ready. Now what I'd recommend you do now is go to the cloud.google.com/SDK address and download and install the Google Cloud Software Developers Kit. And as it says here, the Google Cloud SDK contains tools and libraries that enable you to easily create and manage resources on the Google Cloud platform. Now what this will do is this will help you out immensely. It's very easy to install. I'm not going to go through that with you, but you can follow this for Linux or Mac OS X or Windows, so that's where we get this tab. Click the download button, follow these instructions, then when it's all installed, you can click the, you can type into the command window when you launch the shell, gcloud space auth space login, and that will take you to a login screen, an intermediate login screen from Google, where you basically authorize the SDK to manage SSH access and things like that with your cloud compute account. So I recommend you follow that through, and I'll do the bits. Plenty of straightforward instructions, but that will help you out a great deal. Not imperative, but worthwhile doing. Come back here, we can see test web server has been installed and ready to go. It's spun up and it's ready to use. You can see the external IP over there. So the first thing we need to do is connect to it. Now you get a bunch of different options for connecting, but the simplest one is just to click on the SSH button, and this will open a brand new Google Chrome tab for us, or whatever you're using. It'll open a new window and connect to it in a web browser, which gives us full SSH access, and there we go, we're in. No messing about, no configuring, we're just straight in, and we can start typing things into this server. Now the first thing to do is to update the package repositories, because at the minute this is just a standard Linux install of the Debian 7. So we need to do some more things. We're going to type in sudo apt-get update. So after hitting enter, this will go ahead and just update all of our package repositories with the latest information. It only takes a few moments, but we'll just leave this while it completes. So now that the package repository is updated, we could do something like just manually type in apt-get MySQL, Apache, PHP, and all that other sort of business if you want to install it that way. However, what we find is really easy and nice is to use a front-end control panel of sorts. Now we use one called Vesta Control Panel, which just installs a front end to which we can configure various web server elements. Now this is it. We use this a lot for our hosting, and it's really reliable and open source. So if you go to vestacp.com, and you get up the Vesta homepage, and it is exactly what it says in the tin. Simple and clever hosting control panel, and you can see down here this gives you a basic snapshot of the homepage that you'll go to on the control panel. And much like Plesk or cPanel, it is a front-end interface for configuring and managing web server, DNS server, mail server, DB server, and it gets you all the MyPHP goodness, and it's really easy to install. So we'll follow these 3 simple install instructions. We're already SSH'd onto it, so we'll just literally copy this instruction, and because we're in an SSH web browser window, we'll just paste that straight in and run it, and that has downloaded the package. And now we'll just type the install command. So we'll run sudo bash vst-install.sh like it is in the Vesta window, and we'll put the -f on to just force the install over the top of anything else that might be in the way, just so we get a smooth install. So we'll hit enter and get that running, and now you'll get the Vesta CP install sort of page. So yes, we want to proceed. We'll type Y and hit enter, and enter a valid email address. So we'll go admin@redgorilla.co.uk. Probably recommend putting your own in here. And for a host name, we're just going to type in my web server. It doesn't really matter. We can play with all this stuff later. We'll type in my web server and hit enter, and we'll wait while that installs. It says it'll take about 15 minutes. So what we'll do is just skip ahead to the end and then start from there. So you can see that the Vesta control panel has installed successfully. If you reach this point, you can get the nice little Vesta sort of logo with some ASCII art, and it gives us some details to be able to log into our control panel from here. So we get this IP address, which is the IP address of our server, our username and a password, so make a note of those. And what this enables us now to do is to log into our very own installed Vesta control panel. So we're going to copy this URL and we'll just stick it in this window here and paste that in. And what you'll find is it'll go away and spin and try and load it, but probably very little will happen. And this is because we've not allowed port 8083 to actually run and through the firewall. Now, if we take off this, 8083 at the end of it, you can see it's not loaded. If we take off the 8083 and just run the actual web page as is, actually, if we, my mistake, if we take off the HTTPS bit, just the regular one, we can see that it's loaded this default domain. Now, normally here, when you've installed a web server, you'd get the Apache, it works, everything's great. But because we've installed Vesta, this is the kind of default page that you get, which means it's installed successfully and it's displaying that page. But we want to get into the control panel on this port 8083. So what we need to do is enable port 8083 through our cloud compute virtual machine instance firewall. So we're going to go back to our developer console and go down to networks, and in this we could create a new network, but it already automatically created one for us called default. So we click into there and you'll see a list of firewall rules. So we've got very typical ones there: port 80 for HTTP, 443 for HTTPS, and the SSH one there. So we're going to click a new firewall rule. We're going to call this, in keeping with the same that's the naming convention that's there, default-allowed-Vesta CP. You can call this whatever you want. Source IP range, we're going to just put in 0.0.0.0/0, which means any IP will be able to access this. If you're a bit more security conscious and you want to enable it only from a list of IPs or one IP, then I'd suggest putting that in there. But for now, that's fine. This allows access from anywhere. I mean, to some degree, what's the point of having a web panel, you know, to manage your server on the web if you can't access it from anywhere? Allowed protocols, we're going to put in TCP:8083 because that's the port we want to allow through. And then we'll click create. Won't take too long to create this firewall rule for us. And then we'll be deposited back to the main network list with our firewall rules in it. So you can see it's been created down the bottom. So now that will allow us access to our control panel. So if we go back to this, you can now see that it's actually it's whinging about an SSL certificate, because as you can see, Vesta CP comes with its own self-certified SSL certificate, which, as you can see, it'll say the identity has not been verified, it's probably dodgy, but it's not. Trust us, it's fine. So we know what we're doing. We'll click advanced and then we'll click proceed to the control panel. So this is the Vesta login screen. As you can see, quite nice. So we'll type in admin, that's our username, and we need to get our password. It was a tricky one, so I'll have to, excuse me, I can't remember it. We'll go and find it. Back in our SSH window, we'll copy the password and we'll just exit out of this SSH window because we don't need it anymore. So exit, exit, that'll shut that down. Copy and paste our password in and log in. And this is the Vesta control panel homepage. You can see there we've got our admin user and various tabs at the top for managing websites, DNS, mail or databases. Now this is the tutorial technically at this point is complete. We've installed a web server, we've installed a control panel to manage it, so we could end it there. But to give a more complete tutorial, we're going to go ahead and install WordPress on to round it off. Now WordPress needs a database, so we'll better create one first. Don't need to do anything with it, but we need to create a blank database. So we'll click on the DB tab and then add a database. We'll call it test DB, and you can see that Vesta adds admin underscore to the start of it. We'll type DB user for the database user and password as the password, which is horrendously secure. But there you go. Now we'll click add and you'll see that the database admin underscore test DB has been created. If we click on the little PHP myadmin link, it will take us to the ubiquitous PHP myadmin. We'll type in admin underscore DB user because that was the user we created, password of password, and here we are in the myadmin interface. You can see the admin test DB has been created, and this will allow you to do everything you could normally do with PHP myadmin, but we'll leave that for now. Right, so we're back at the default domain. Now we need to upload some files, specifically the WordPress files, in order to make WordPress run. And to do that, we're going to use FileZilla and set up the sftp access to upload our files. Now, to do this, this utilizes the Google SDK we talked about earlier. So I'm just going to drag, I've already installed it, so I'm going to drag the window over with the shortcut on for the Google Cloud SDK shell, and we'll just go and run that. And it gets as a command line, much like anything else. It's just a command prompt, just a shell. But how we generate our SSH keys is we'll go back to the developer console, click on VM instances, and in this drop down at the side, where before we just click the SSH straight away, we'll click View gcloud command from the little drop down, copy this out of there, and then we'll paste that into the Google Cloud SDK shell and run it. And because it's the first time we've accessed this this server, we'll be asked to create, it will create us some private RSA keys and SSH key pairs. So we'll type in a passphrase. I'm going to again use the excellent password of password. Feel free to use something slightly more secure. We'll type the same thing in again, so password in again, and it creates us our private key, public key, and a putty key, no less. If you're on Windows, you're probably going to use putty for some command line SSHing in. I'll type in my password, passkey again, passphrase that I've just created, and it will open putty. I'm actually not interested in putty at the minute because it's served our purpose, so we'll just get rid of this window. Typing in exit. Oh no, we need to put our passphrase in first. We'll put password back in and then we'll type exit and get rid of putty. We'll type exit into the SDK shell and get rid of that too. Close that window, and now we need to open FileZilla. If you don't have FileZilla, then you might need to go and install it, or you should be able to have sftp access from any of your favorite FTP client. We're going to use FileZilla, very popular, very stable, excellent program. I recommend it. Now, first thing we need to do is set up or import our key to allow sftp access. So we're going to go to edit on the menu and then down to settings, and under the sftp area, we're going to click add key file, browse to where our SSH keys are input. This should be in your users documents folder. As you can see there, users, that's admin, that's me, then .ssh, and we're going to highlight and open the Google_compute_engine, and it'll complain that it needs to convert the key file because that's not supported by FileZilla. Would you like to convert it into a supported unprotected format? Yes, we would, so click yes. Enter the password, which is that passphrase we put in. Remember the really secure password that we put in. Click OK, and we'll just save it back somewhere. I normally just leave it as the PPK one, and then we'll just put the name of the service as test web server, and you can see it's added in there. So that's all we need to do for this. So we'll click OK, and that has put our public key into FileZilla. Now under the host name, we're going to put in the IP address, with sftp colon // that's the sftp, quite a mouthful, protocol. And then we're going to type in our IP address 146.148.21.202. Bear in mind this will be different for yours, so you'll need to find that from your VM instances. Our username was admin, which you can find from the SSH panel. And if we click Quick Connect, I haven't used this key file before, always trust it, and then we click OK, and we are in. So you can see now that we've got the straight to the path home/admin. This is on our server, and to upload some web files to it, what we're going to, I'm just going to navigate on my local computer to the WordPress files. This is all the WordPress installation files we need to copy over. We need to copy these to, just for now, we're going to put it in default domains. This is under web folder on our server, web folder, default domain. That is the default domain we can see behind us there. That's where the web files are being served from. And public HTML. Now I'll delete those two out of there because the index.html that's being shown on the Chrome window will always show if there's an index.html. So we'll delete everything out and just copy over the WordPress installation. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of files, so we'll come back later when this has all been uploaded. So WordPress has been successfully copied over and it's now sitting in our default domain. So we can close FileZilla, we don't need that anymore. And if we go now to our website, our just default IP address, we now get the WordPress install, which means it successfully worked. So we're going to choose English UK because that's where we are. Click continue and then just follow through the standard WordPress install. Yep, that's all fine. Database name, if you remember from our Vesta Control Panel that we set it up, was admin_testdb. Our username was admin_dbuser. Our password was, frighteningly, just password, so we're going to leave that alone. Database host is definitely localhost, and table prefix, call it what you want. We'll click submit, then we'll run the install. It says we made it that far. And that's good. So all we need to put in now is a site title. So we're going to put in Red Gorilla test site, RG test site. Username, I'm just going to put in test user. And again, for the third and final time, password twice. The word password. Call yours whatever you wish. If you're deleting it at the end of this, it doesn't matter if it's secure or not. Don't need search engines to index this site. And we'll click install WordPress. And that's it, done. So if we click login and put in our test user username and password of password and then click login, we'll be taken to the WordPress dashboard. Now this is WordPress, brand new fresh install running on our cloud server at that address. If we visit the site now, we'll get the standard 2015 WordPress hello world. We can click on a few things, the blog post, and that's us done really. So that's installed. Everyone's happy as a clam with that. So really, the let's just cover what we've gone through. We've set up a brand new project in the Google Developers Console. We've created a new disk image of Linux. We've attached that to a brand new created virtual server instance, and we've booted to it. We've set up Vesta Control Panel to allow us easy web server management of things like databases and DNS and websites and all that lovely stuff. We've SSH'd or secure connected through secure FTP through FileZilla and uploaded a fresh brand new install of WordPress, and we've configured it all. Now I'm back in the developers console and I've clicked the test web server and then I've clicked delete at the top because we're done with this tutorial, so I'm just doing a little bit of cleanup. If you want to run yours as a proper web server, leave it going. I don't want to be charged for this and we don't really have any more use for it. So I've highlighted the web server and clicked delete at the top, and that has deleted the instance, and you'll notice it's also deleted the disk because we checked that delete the boot disk as part of deleting the virtual instance. So there's no more disks, no more instance. So if we go back to the project, all it leaves is all that remains is to delete the web server. So we click on delete this project, we copy and paste in the project ID, just to sort of make absolutely doubly sure we want to delete it. Yep, delete the project. And that's it. It will be added to the project's pending deletion. There you go. And at some point in the future, it will delete that project and wipe it off. So that's been the tutorial. If you've got any questions, you can email us at hello@redgorilla.co.uk, or if you wish, leave some comments and we'll respond to them there. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and best of luck playing with the Google Cloud Platform. It's really great, and I suggest you get in there and have a little play about with it. Dead easy, dead straightforward. And yeah, we'll see you on the next tutorial.